Mal.
Yes. Right.
Is it there?
Take it away, Martin. Come.
Has he said it's right?
Yes. We're back in long space again. It's very short.
I'll just check the answer as well. Oh, yeah.
That's what we're expecting.
I'm just like from here, then right, not coming.
Yes. Do you have a spare pack of papers for this meeting? I'm assuming I can't find that anywhere, which is why I was earlier.
What are you looking at?
It's fine, the paper, aren't you?
Actually, most of these are my...
Do you have someone to
No, yes, I'm sorry, I'm just thinking carry around about parish council file. It says things like Sawston Parish responsibilities of council.
Oh, right.
So useful things like that. Donations.
No, I never know.
I thought the roads would be really keen and printed out the whole of the Uttlesford Transport Assessment, all 357 pages.
Lovely, thanks.
Well, as I say, it's the first bit you want to look at. The rest of it's really just technical, statistical backup.
Yes.
But the,
But I can suggest...
well, what yes, right, good evening everybody and welcome to this public. We have apologies for absence from William Matthews, Rob Grayson, who may turn up later but is detained by work commitments, and who else?
Tony Rogers at a meeting here.
Tony Rogers, yes. So that still leaves Neil, who may turn up. Right, so we have members of the public here, so would you like to speak, please?
I was walking the dog today, getting wet in the rain, and I passed down New Road, the junction with Evans Way, and the phone box there no longer has a phone in it. I thought BT weren't removing that. I don't know when they did it, but there is no phone in that phone box.
Oh, right.
So I don't know whether somebody would like to get in touch with whoever it was, or whether they just ignored the last deputations, but just...
Well, we certainly chased that, but I would imagine that once they made the decision, but yeah, I'll check. We can check whether that's in person or not.
Thank you.
Deliberate, wasn't vandalism.
Oh no, it's not. It's well, it's very nice vandalism if it was.
Tidy vandalism.
Yes.
Well, that's all very, very complete and surgical.
Yes, I mean maybe they got 20p from it. I don't know.
Thanks for that. Anyway,
thank you.
Anyone else who'd like to speak? Do I have the declarations of interest for the meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Planning, 11 Millway.
Yes. Oh yes. Okay.
Rose Phillips, she's the chairman of the Trust.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yes, same here. I've worked with Charles Trust and I know Reg Collinwell, who's also the architect on that. So I don't know if it's a prejudicial one or whether
It's not prejudicial. It's only prejudicial this time.
So does that mean we can participate in the discussion?
Yes, I think probably it would be wise not to vote.
Item 56, the plan applications I'm on the district planning committee.
As indeed in mine.
I don't know if Brian felt that he ought to be, there's only 2 doors away or whatever. From 11 away.
The other 3 doors away.
Well, it's up to you. I mean, it doesn't really impinge on your property, does it?
No.
Well, anyway, just I mean, you may as well note it to make it be on the safe side.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So the first substantive item is I'd like to welcome Lynn Burns to the meeting, who's Senior Operations Manager of Age UK. was going through a sort of short 10-minute presentation on their work and to answer questions afterwards. And this was at the suggestion of Janet Martin. I don't know whether you wish to say one or two words in introduction.
Yes. I met Lynn at a Connecting Communities event in March this year, which Brian was at as well. And Lynn spoke and we talked afterwards about ways in which we can support older people in our communities, and with things like the plan coming up, etc. We thought it would be a nice idea to invite you to come and speak. And just to add one other thing, the stats that I've got show that we in Sawston have 631 residents who are aged 75 and over, and of those, 253 live in one-person households. And of course, part of that group, the very elderly, will be almost invisible because many won't be going out as much as we do. So I thought it would be very useful for you to speak about ways in particular the parish council might support initiatives.
So the floor is yours.
Sorry, should I just stand here?
Yes, of course you can, yes.
Okay. So Janet invited me to come along and just tell you a little bit about the work that we do in Cambridgeshire. We are a county-wide charity, so Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. We recently merged with our sister organisation in Peterborough. But I'm based at Cherry Trees, which is right in the middle of Cambridge, and I'll just tell you about the Cambridgeshire services. So I've brought all sorts of bits and pieces for you. I'll just link them for you, and then you can take whatever you want. These are really, really useful. These are sort of wallet purse size, and this is a little bit like CAB for older people. Don't tell CAB I'm describing it as that. But these are trained information workers who can help an older person on any query to do with being older. It's backed up by our experts in London who produce any number of fact sheets on all sorts of things. So if everybody's on the web, these are downloadable from our website, and some of the fact sheets are 4 pages long, some are 54 pages long. So depending on the subject, if folk are not on the internet and they ring us up, we'll download them for them and send them to them. We might ask them for a donation for stamps. But really, really useful for people who are at that stage of life where they're having to take big life-changing decisions, so they can make that decision in confidence, knowing what the current legislation says are their rights, their choices, and then sometimes we can help them to articulate their wishes. So really, really quickly, because I know I've only got 10 minutes, that's the information service, which is free. We also have a range of practical services. So if we start off with something called the Handy Person Service, that's so that people can have an assessment of their home and their own well-being to try and ensure that their home is as healthy as it can be made. So it avoids preventable injuries, and sometimes we can put in something like an extra banister or various things that can help people remain safe at home. So the assessment for that service is free. Sometimes some of the small adaptations are free because we work with the county council as well, but then other things have to be paid for, but we can arrange that. We have a home help service, old-fashioned home help, domestic work. We often have waiting lists. We can't find enough staff to actually service all of the referrals that we get. But these are paid staff who've all been interviewed, referenced and DBS checked, so as far as we can tell they are the right kind of people to be matched to older people who might be vulnerable. Incidentally, all of our staff and all of our volunteers all go through the same checking process, so they're all referenced, they're all managed and they're all DBS checked. That's really important when you're working with this particular age group. We have a small gardening service for people who are having trouble just keeping their lawn tidy, sorting out the edges, cutting hedges. We don't do landscaping or anything whizzy like that. It's just the stuff that gets a little bit difficult as you get older. That's also a charge for service. We have 6 social day clubs, one in the middle of Cambridge, 4 out in Fenland and another one in Huntingdon. That's an opportunity for a lot of people to get out of the house, meet others, and hopefully alleviate their loneliness. Loneliness is a big issue now amongst the older age group, particularly those who are living in single unit households. What we often find is that many of that number are not as mobile as they'd like to be, either in terms of their legs or in terms of access to transport. And lots of folk just soldier on for too long until they become really needy. So we would like to be able to help people more with that particular age group. We also have a visiting befriending scheme. So across the county we've got over 500 volunteers work with us, and they are matched with their own older person. They agree to visit once a week, and they go and they chat. So it's just a face-to-face, how are you, how are you getting on, have you got any forms you don't understand, just the nice stuff. But that way you've got eyes and ears out in the community, and also you've got an opportunity for folk to hear of things that might interest them. And I know some of our volunteers do much more than 1 hour a week. Some of them have 2 or 3 clients, but inevitably what people say to us is, that person, I'm absolutely waiting for that particular day when I know they're coming, because I'll have some company and somebody to talk to. So, you know, some really stark figures to do with loneliness. I mean, a lot of older people sort of fed into a big survey which said that there's over 80,000 older people in Cambridgeshire alone who tell us they're lonely. Nationally, it's over 1 million. Over 1 million older people told that actually television is their main source of company. And some people go more than a month without actually seeing another person. So anything that we can do that sort of makes an older person feel a little bit more supported, we try and do it. So sometimes it's through paid services and sometimes it's through volunteer services. So the other thing that I know Janet was really interested in is our community warden services. So these are a bit like the wardens used to be in the sheltered housing schemes before their job descriptions were changed hugely. They look after a geographical area. This is people who are living in their own homes, not people who are in sheltered and not people who are in residential. And the warden visits them every day just to make sure they're okay. Can help with little bits of shopping, and by that I mean, you know, a bottle of milk and a £1/2 of ham, not 4 bags from Tesco's on the bike handlebars. And just checks that they're okay, but also eyes and ears out there, somebody checking that they're all right and being able to put them in touch with somebody else who might be able to help them. So I've rattled through that, but do ask me any questions, because 10 minutes is not an awful long time.
Well, thank you very much. I think it's extremely helpful. Do you have any questions?
You were mentioning day centres. Do you know when the nearest one to Sawston is, or is that one in Sawston?
This one in Sawston at Orchard House.
Yes.
Yeah, I was all over that. I didn't know that.
I think it's a small one, and I think it caters particularly for people who've got memory loss.
Yes.
To a large degree. I think what we need to do is to try and perhaps get some of the local churches or other groups together who can make an occasion that older people can get out of the house for, but then there are all the issues to do with getting people in to transport and various other things. But you know, if we start somewhere, we'll make a difference.
There's the nearest runs a lunch club once a month. I think they're thinking of extending it to once a month.
They're very beneficial.
This is a point of information. Do we know anybody who runs a lift service for older people, particularly so they can get to events that...
You will transport them?
Yeah, transport.
Have you got a car scheme here?
No. So I was just thinking back to that exit conference where other parishes were doing lift or transport services on a voluntary basis. People getting paid to cover their costs, their natural costs and so on. And there were a couple that were really quite successful.
Yeah.
There certainly was a car scheme at one time. I mean, Parish Council was involved. I'm not sure what the status of that is at the moment.
Yeah, I'm not aware of one. I mean, there's quite a good one in Royston, but that I think is a separate charity. I can't remember what it's
Care
called.
Network, who are another organisation. have a service whereby they can help people who want to set up these kinds of community initiatives, know all the ins and outs and the ands and buts. So if you wanted to contact them, they would probably be able to help you with the details of what you need to do and think about if that's something you want to consider.
I think the reason why that is that I think, by comparison with some of the other parishes in Cambridgeshire, we were relatively, not backward, that's not really, but we were certainly, we were not at the vanguard of offering additional services like that, where others would be much more proactive and getting very good feedback. So,
when this issue first came up, I did a sort of desktop exercise, and there is actually quite a lot going on in Sawston for that age group. But I agree with you to some extent, because I think there's probably a need to bring it together. Possibly also need community navigators.
I was just going to say you've got the community navigators as well. The County Council is very, very keen at the moment to actually help people before the point that they need social care. Which is eminently sensible, and it often falls to volunteer groups and local groups and various charities to sort of be there for people to feed into.
So this seems to me as well, sorry, just the general movement is for the County Council to move care as far down the chain into local governments as possible because of the budgetary constraints, and that's including the intervention that you mentioned. So it may be something that we could think about how more proactive we could be.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe in case of getting in touch with the care network and seeing that means
They certainly could help you set something up.
And the warden scheme, presumably, we could.
There are two methods to do it. There's our method. We somebody gives us some money and we do all of the management of it, including the staff management and all that. But also, again, Care Network used to be able to provide the skeleton of how to do it if you yourself wanted to manage a warden's service.
Yeah. So
it just depends what method you feel is the one you want to go through.
Did you see they have a very active U3A part, for example, in Sawston, and not all of their events are actually in Sawston. Sawston has so there could be scope for a transport scheme or possibly a sort of buddying system so that somebody who's going to an event who could drive and take a person.
And again, if anybody knows anybody who'd like to be a volunteer, who would like to visit other people, get them to. But at the end of the day, I mean, take these cards and these bits and pieces, and anybody who's got any kind of issue, I'm talking about, mum can't get a bin down to the end of the lane. How do we manage that so we can show them how to get an assisted bin collection? From somebody who's perhaps applied for attendance allowance and been refused, and then their daughter will come to us and say, Mum, this, that, and the other. We can explain to them the appeal process and sometimes the magic words to use with some of these forms. Right through to, we had somebody ring us up not long ago to say, well, I've been living in Spain for the last 18 years and I'm coming home now. I want to know what my protected rights are. So it's right from, one end of the scale right through to the other. But this is information that people can rely on. And as I said, take what can be big life-changing decisions. And if you're considering changes of accommodation or perhaps if you're newly bereaved, all sorts of things can be really fancy when you start to look at them. And inevitably, they're never the same as you thought they were, because what you thought they were is what happened 20 years ago, and it will change since then. If I can help, you've got my contact details, then you know where I am. Otherwise, I'll just leave you with all these and take care of you.
If there are no further questions, I'd like to thank you very much for coming along and giving this interesting presentation.
Thank you, Lee. Great. Bye-bye again. Thank you.
Thanks for suggesting that.
Thank you.
Right, if we move on to agenda item 51, which is confirming and signing the minutes of the last meeting. I'll go through those as usual by paragraph. So starting on page 9, paragraph 26, 27, 28.
With that, with 27, I just add that all those cars are now being removed.
Right, okay. Yeah.
So we have the last one has gone.
Okay.
Yes, there's a sentence. Sorry, no, sorry, I thought you finished.
I'll finish.
Yeah, so Brian, and then Beck, okay?
Oh, sorry.
No, you were first.
It was rather tricky,
Yes.
but it wasn't a parish council matter. And at one point it felt to me as though Kevin was having a little casework session for either of these other roles, rather than something that... And I know we're here to help if we can, but it wasn't an issue which the parish council was responsible for, was it?
Well, no, but I think as both district and county councils, quite often we have cases which are district or county responsibilities which get us through the parish council, because that's the first point of contact. Sorry, do you want to? Oh, sorry.
Sometimes it sounds useful to let people know what the parish council doesn't deal with. That's what we do. Why do the minutes start on page 9?
People will never change. See if you're awake, that's what it is.
They're sequential.
Yeah, because they have to, the full parish has to do it, has to go in, it doesn't start from one again, so
this was the second meeting of the cycle, so that's why there were 8 in the previous.
that's why the numbers run on it, it doesn't start at one.
Meeting, so
It's only on full parish.
So you can find
next this one will start on page 14.
Can I just ask about things? Like, presumably all the cars that Collins had removed actually were genuinely abandoned cars.
I don't know. All I know is that the ones I looked at were they had been reported by the normal channels, but they'd been not dealt with.
Yeah.
If they're licensed, if they're not licensed.
All I know is they were sawn. They were statutory off-road. No.
If they're on the road with the storm, then they're illegal.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think the issue that the residents brought last time was that actually it wasn't a stolen vehicle. Is that right?
Right.
It was. Anyway, it's just
When you report it, the police do get involved at first, and if it's not stolen, then it's passed back to the council to deal with.
Well, in answer to Barnes' comment, is I took it on board as a district council reports it to the authorities, which is what we think of it every week. Regarding your comment, is it was a sawn vehicle that was on district council property, which means it was illegal. So that's why it was removed. So that's the bottom line of it. The officers dealt with it. They supposed that the official line was it had to be removed by yesterday the 10th. I'm assuming Collins told me today it's gone, but we don't know when it was removed.
No, it was. I was told it was there yesterday, but I've been round there before I came here. I went round and it's not.
It has gone, so the problem was solved. Right, so we move over the page to page 10, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. Over the page, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, and 46. May I sign those and make the meeting? All those in agreement, thank you very much. Right, so certain matters arising. So next item is report from the Planning and Environment Committee. And again, I'll go through those by number. So page 1 this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Over the page 6. 7, and this is a sort of item which has occurred to this meeting. As members will be aware, we applied a couple of years ago for the King's Head to be registered as an asset of community value, and we received a notice which to indicate that that has come on the market, and the question is whether we want to make a bid. I'm not suggesting for a moment, I don't think anyone here sits council should enter into the licensed victualling business, but it would provide a 6-month moratorium should a community group wish to come forward and take it on. So, do I have any comments, suggestions?
I think one of the reasons for doing this was because of the appearance of the high street, wasn't it?
Yes.
The King's Head wasn't there. The high street would essentially start a bit further on and be be potentially less attractive. So that was one of the reasons, wasn't it? The other reason is that if a group did come forward, it might be a venue that could be used for lots of things apart from just a public house, so to speak. It could also house maybe some community groups or events which actually require a venue up to late in the evening or during the morning, etc. I think that was the sort of thing we talked about.
I think I don't think there'll be any risk to the physical structure of the building because it is Grade 2 listed, but obviously it is possible in the course of time there could be a change of use as occurred in the Queen's Head. And if it became a private house, that would obviously have the effect on the high street that Janet mentioned. So, Beck and then Brian. Okay.
So there's an increasing popularity at the moment for co-ops purchasing former pubs and running them as a community asset. We've got an example, as we mentioned at the planning meeting, locally next door in Stapleford, where the tree is the subject of a community group who have organised funding and are looking to go ahead with that. So certainly, if there was anybody in the village that was interested, and I think that was the reason that we were interested in registering an interest, so that we could at least give that window of opportunity if somebody else in the village was interested in forming such a co-op group.
Don't villages that take over pubs, it tends to be smaller villages where it's the only pub left in the village, so it would be slightly...
It's not really that way in Stapleford, is it?
There are other ones in Stapleford.
So, and clearly at one time Sawston had many more active pubs than today.
Well, yes, but the business model for them has changed. I mean, you might say that they'd only be closing down the King's Head if they can't make any money out of it.
Well, it's a brewery chain, isn't it? It's Green King, so whether
Sorry, there was a report in the last 10 days on this issue, and one of the interesting things that came out of that was actually that the co-ops are managing to make a small profit from those pubs that are taking over. So they are managing with changes in. So the tree, for example, isn't just going to be a pub. It's going to be, as Janet suggested, a community centre where they have rooms available for hire and so on, and have it open for longer hours, for example, and so on. So it seems to me that there was an opportunity if we wanted. I think it's Bill, I don't remember his surname offhand, that runs the community group. I'm sure if we thought there was some interest, we could get him to come and talk to us about how they've set theirs up.
I mean, I think that there's certainly some merit in buying time. Because I mean, if we do nothing, the restriction will come off on the 17th. We can market it. I mean, I think it depends very much on who would emerge. I mean, if a commercial operator emerged who's prepared to run it as a park, I don't think we'd have too much difficulty with it. I think the concern is happened with a number of parks around the district. They can be bought as parks, which is probably about half the value of their reaches residential property. And obviously they usually quite good adaptations. There's no real problem, but
it's happened as well, isn't it? So, for example, the post office in Shelford was put on the market for
Hildershire was the
as a going concern as a post office.
Oh yes, sorry.
And then, of course, when the period expired, he was able to put it on the market for substantially more as a residential property.
That's right. Do you need someone to propose?
Yes, I do.
No. We've already done it. We just need a vote.
It's a recommendation.
Register an interest.
So, is there any further discussion here? Sorry, Rashid.
But how would the people in Sawston know this has come up? We need to let you have the
advertise.
Without that,
That's what it's saying, yes. So it's
having the extension will not help.
Yes.
Only by letting people know.
Yes.
That's what we put
Then
here.
people
Register
might
an
come
interest and
forward.
advertise to
Yes.
see if anyone's interested in community groups.
Yes. I mean, you'll be prepared to carry. I mean, it was an issue of the sorts of scene now, I'm sure.
Proper deadlines tomorrow,
I know it
and
is,
we won't have a parish council report because Rob Grayson's looking tomorrow.
My district one is almost ready to go, so you will get that budget as a business tomorrow.
But we don't have any parish council matters, and I don't think we've had anything about a neighbourhood plan this either.
I could put a bit in about the pub in my district one if that was going.
Yes, not all.
Well, yeah, we're
I thought it might be better as a standalone article actually, rather than included a report which people might not read or.
Well, would anybody else like to write a bit about it? If you can do some research about it, Brian.
Let's get back to a little bit about it. Reference table for adding those reports on co-op ownerships.
I think before we talk about publicity, we need to first of all decide what we're actually going to do. We have a recommendation from the planning that we register an interest. All those in favour of
I think it was that Bradley was making the point there's no point in making the offer or doing anything else about it, so and what else we going to do.
Right, so I've got that bit of work. So I'll let them know, and then someone needs to advertise.
Yes.
Right, something to...
I'll try and do something. It is really, yes.
Tomorrow. And Wednesday, but
You could come under the neighbourhood plan though.
Well, I was thinking that it might be something that comes within that remit.
Yeah.
It could do.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So are you writing? So are you writing a report?
Not at the moment. I hadn't thought to.
I was just going to raise it under the next point because it seems odd to me to be thinking about having a public meeting as large a place as Henry Morris Hall when we've done a bit of community engagement going out to the debate and things, but we haven't asked generally around the village for people who might know about planning and things. And we haven't yet had any article in the village magazine.
Yeah, if I can just answer a couple of things on that. The first stage of developing the neighbourhood plan is about defining the boundary, and obviously we've got this issue of waiting for Abraham and the outcome there and Compasswood. And if we are going forward, the three of us, we have to discuss that with them. So, further to the action about the public meeting, my view would be that we need to consult with Compasswood and Abraham about the next steps and what we do about the next public meeting. And I would be in favour of having some kind of, well, another meeting with the working group before we do this, simply so that we can, make sure that everyone's on board with it and we're clear what we actually want to do at this meeting. We need to plan it. If it's going to be a public meeting, it's going to have to be something that requires some kind of structure to it. And I think we need to discuss it as the neighbourhood plan working group. So that is what I would suggest.
I guess so. I'm just always concerned that if you start thinking about the working group making a presentation to the public, then that's a disincentive
Oh,
for people
I
to
didn't
join.
say that. What I said was about structuring it and how we organise the meeting and also consulting with Pumpisford and Baberham. So I think those are the main issues. And with regard to writing an article, I wouldn't want to do that without some input from the rest of the group, I think. So maybe we think about that for the next.
I mean, I put a short paragraph on my report so this thing is happening and that we just propose it.
But it's not actually happening. Which is my continuing disappointment.
But I just thought it might be helpful. No one else is saying we can go out.
I think it will potentially get very confusing if you start trying to cover random action things and that. Well, also about
My understanding from the last meeting was Pepperstone is not willing to come on board.
No, Pumpisford is keen. Pumpisford is very keen. Baberham wanted to. What happened was we had meetings with Baberham Parish Council representatives, and they were keen. But there is a technical issue about them requiring to go back to their own community in the way that Sawston did at our annual meeting. And when they went back to their community at their annual meeting, the public there said, we'd like some more information about a neighbourhood plan and about what the implications are for us. So they were going to have another meeting and a representation from the team at South Cam that deals with neighbourhood planning so that their village residents could understand it and come to a decision about it. So it's not right to say that they're not in favour.
I thought that meeting took place some time ago.
20th.
Yes, of June. 20th.
So we need to catch up with them about what's actually happening.
Okay.
So yeah.
Which meeting?
So the Baberham meeting.
With representation from the district?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so it's already happened?
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago?
So we need to catch up with them about that. And then we can organise something.
So dependent on the outcome of that
and then we
meeting.
can organise something, yeah.
But the reason for trying to organise something now in September is unless we do it now, we won't have an August meeting. So there's a possibility that will slip. So it seemed like an appropriate, the good idea to book the diary date.
Yes, also you can't get, because the Village magazine has, the next issue is August, September, if you want the September meeting to go with diary, and the deadline for the diary is next Tuesday, I think. So.
But you have your weekly diary as well, don't you?
Yes, we'll have
that's email only.
Up for that, yes.
And we'd obviously need to do other things to encourage representation because not everyone has sourced and seen. We need to put posters up as well. We're right to key groups, so there is a bit of advertising anyway.
That we just on that particular issue, I think we suggested that we might mail the whole village. Did we not?
That would be yes. I think yes. I think rather than have a prolonged discussion here, it might be helpful to arrange another meeting of the working group.
That's what I'd really like to do. Yes. Yeah, and invite. I mean, the other thing was we had 30 members of the public who said they were interested in helping with the neighbourhood plan. It'd be nice to invite them to the working group meeting as well, so we get a broader representation there.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So the action from this is to set up another meeting.
Yes, either later in
bring it back to this council in September.
Yeah, first half of July, either July, August. I'm here August, so I'm quite happy to meet there.
Chairman, if you're planning to meet at the end of September,
Yes.
Yeah, I think we need to put delegates in terms of when the circular or leaflet is going to hold Sawston.
Yes.
And also when the meetings are going to take place. That way we have deadlines to start progressing. Because at the moment, Garrett is doing her utmost.
Yes.
So let's put some diary dates so we know exactly by which day what we need to achieve. Otherwise, this September, end of September, just down the road.
It'll drift.
Well, let's do what we were going to do, which is find out availability dates for...
So you want them for to wear at the Henry Morris Hall?
Yes, yeah, and then if we can schedule in a meeting, I can give you some dates for that, working group in early August. That would be
Yes.
good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Right, so agenda item 9, 10 and 11. I raised the issue of the Utters for Local Plan, which had just been published. Nobody seems to be aware of what it contained until the agenda papers came out for the Utters for Planning Policy Working Group meeting on the 22nd of June, so that would have been about 5 days ago, about 17. And although we knew that Great Chesterford was one of 7 proposals for garden settlements, we were somewhat surprised to find, really without any warning or without certainly any prior knowledge that I was aware of to South Cambs, that this had been included. And as members may be aware, if you've looked at the map, it is actually bordered on 2 sides of the site by the district boundary. It runs along the side. It's a stump cross basically by Great Chesterford. It runs southeast of the N11 up as far as the point at which the district boundary turns south. It runs along that boundary, so it touches Hingston on one side, Great Abington, Linton it goes down, it just touches, and also sorry, escapes me, parish which was Great Abington and Linton. Hildersham, yeah, that's right, Hildersham, sorry, apologies for that brain failing. Anyway, it touches 4 of our parishes, and we've, as a result of that meeting, we sent one of the concerns was that the original proposal was to run the consultation period from 12th of July to 29th of August. The council meeting, which is deciding whether to put this out to consultation, is being held now at this very moment, and you may listen to the recording if you wish. We're concerned that the 4 weeks of the consultation is during August, and when this happens, South Cambs will be in a similar position rather than that. We will extend it 4 weeks into September. We wrote to both South Cambs and this parish. We also circulated a letter to all the other parishes that were in the south of the district that were affected, and we certainly had a response from 1 or 2, and basically asking Uttlesford to extend the consultation period. All they've done actually is to extend it now, the decision's been made tonight, but the proposal is it's extended to the 4th of September simply to allow the bank holiday period. So I don't think we're going to get much further movement on that. I think it's important that this parish puts in a representation, because it will have very significant effect on the south of the village. One of the disappointing aspects of the proposal is that there's no suggestion of creating a north-facing slip onto the M11, so all M11 traffic north will come at 1301 through the McDonald's roundabout along the 505 and onto junction 10. There's quite an extensive traffic assessment which runs 357 pages, available online, and the sort of 2 main suggestions to come out of that is putting a light control on the McDonald's roundabout and extending the bridge on the southern arm of the junction 10 to 3 carriageways. That would only restore, that's a nil detriment solution. That would only restore the situation to as it is at the moment. It would not represent an overall improvement. That basically is the minimum that they think needs to be done in order to accommodate this extra traffic.
David, can I just ask a question? You mentioned the north entrance onto the M11.
What I was saying that's what they're not doing, because certainly one of other people think the obvious solution is to make that to reconfigure junction 9 and to put a north-facing junction on.
Do you want me to make some agenda on planning?
Well, yes. What I was going to suggest was that it's quite a weighty issue. There are quite a lot of papers to go through, which will really be official on the website until after tonight's meeting at Uttlesford. And I thought probably rather than to take out a long time in this meeting, we have quite a bit of other business, it might be sensible to have a fuller discussion in the planning committee in a fortnight's time. What I think we need to do is not only sending that proposal, but also to delegate to that meeting the responsibility of making a formal response, because we won't have another meeting for you. So I would suggest that it's advertised to all members of the council, and also
council.
Yes, I was wondering to what extent as to whether this room would be adequate to have it, or whether we ought to move it to Spices in order to allow.
Well, if we're going to invite other people, then I think that should.
Well, I think also it would be good to have a public here as well. Yes,
I was going to say. Was it appropriate to ask someone from the district council?
Yes, well, I don't think you'll get anyone from Uttlesford, but I have actually approached officers at South Cambs yesterday to ask whether they would consider sending somebody along. I haven't got a definite reply because they need to go back and look at diaries, but I'm certainly pursuing that, yes.
The other thing I was just going to add, I think that we do need to be concerned about this issue of the traffic flows, because we've got lots of things coming up that's going to increase traffic flow on that bit, the 505 D11. We've got the Moto service station, we've got the Iconics Park, we've got the new houses up at Abraham Road, we've got the football stadium.
We've got the Agritech.
Yes. So there's lots of, so it's worth just somehow keeping an eye on all these different things and the impact on Sawston as the parish.
He's likely also to be further expansion of Abraham Road Park as well. So there is a lot happening around here, and I think my concern is that there seems to be very little joined up thinking at the moment, because nobody really seemed to be aware of how far has it got in Uttlesford until this report was published.
Even though you've been telling them for the last 2 years it's been going on.
Yeah.
So the proposal is to
and the crematorium as well.
discuss the planning and delegate the planning to the planning committee responsibility to give a formal response as from the Parish Council.
Yeah, that's fine. So you're proposing?
Second that.
Okay. So all those in favour of that proposal? Colin?
Wake up.
Okay.
Reading.
Nice. Okay, so
and we're talking about moving the next planning meeting in 2 weeks' time.
I think that would be prudent, yes.
And perhaps do a bit of promotion so that it can come as well.
Yeah. Okay. Right, so that finishes the planning.
No, so around that those children as well.
Yes.
Oh no, actually.
12 was in.
Yes, it was actually. Yes. So the proposal for acceptance. Okay.
Second then?
All those in favour? Okay. Right.
Is Sawston Parish going in camera?
Yes, it is. Yes. Virtual substitution. Right. F and GP, which is on your desk when you arrived. So again, page 1. Have you all got a copy in front of us? Okay. Right. Oh, have I? Sorry. Oh, it's not. No, I don't know. No, it seems to be. Okay. Right, so page 1. Paragraph 1, 2, 3.
David,
Yes?
2, you've got Raj was nominated
Yeah,
by...
you nominated, that's fine, yeah, I'll change that. Kevin didn't nominate and second.
No,
Yeah, it was you.
that would be slightly odd, wouldn't it? Yeah. So yes, so that would be junior.
You can just get some here, but we're not sure now.
Right, okay, so with that typo, yes, thank you. So 3, 4, over the page, 5, 6, 7, and we have a recommendation for the recommendations following the fire risk assessment of up to, because we don't actually have a formal estimate provisionally, do we? So basically, because we don't have another meeting until September to get on with this work, and therefore we're asking council to approve expenditure up to £1,000 in order to deal with these fire recommendations.
Well, there's Lord's proposals, weren't there?
Yes,
Yeah. So
just a vote, no, just a vote.
okay, so yeah, so those in favour? Yeah. Okay. Right. Agenda item 8. Apparently no decision was actually made to take out the loan. It was only made to investigate the possibility of having a loan and to look at interest rates. So there was never a decision to activate the loan anyway. It was taken at that meeting, as I understand it.
Yes.
Well, it's how much in the what the rates and everything will be, but we've never actually, because you have to do quite a lot of paperwork to apply for loan, don't just get it. They never did that.
No,
But we're taking it back to F&G anyway.
December and January.
Yeah,
That's how it was December.
yeah, but we never actually, they agreed to do it, but we never did all the paperwork.
Yeah, before those and second.
I know it was, but it was never, I know it was never, yes.
So if I understand that we never applied for it.
Yes.
No, we've got it, yeah, that's right.
Yes.
So we got all the rate and everything, which it was, and then it was agreed, and then it was
Just today,
taken out. So,
agreement.
yeah, so that's why it's going to go back to
And we didn't apply for them,
No.
so there's no for it.
But I think until we
So
have
I've got the other details, and then it will go on the next F&G, and then hopefully we'll have a decision. We'll know about Cambridge City Government as well. So.
because I mean at the moment it's still premature because we have a decision in Cambridge City. Right, so moving on to reserves, agenda item 9, and there's a recommendation. Yes, there's a recommendation on 9. Yes. We use all money in S-6 for play equipment.
No.
Sorry.
Reversed, yeah,
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, there is a residual amount in the money that was originally granted for the Spices Pavilion, and that sits in a separate account. So the proposal here is that we use that money for any work which needs to be done on the Spices Pavilion, which seems entirely logical to me, until it's used up, so the account will be closed. So that's the recommendation for you. All those in favour of that recommendation? you. And moving over, there's a second recommendation here, which is to propose that we use all money in the S106 for play equipment and take the rest from reserve subjects to draft. Checking with South Cams that we're able to do this, which I think is on.
The answer is no.
Sorry?
The answer is no.
Yes, yeah.
17,000
That's right,
has
yes,
been, needs to be used for indoor community space, so it needs spending on filling rather than play equipment.
So that proposal really falls.
Yeah, that takes all.
Yes, yeah. So agenda item 10 and agenda item 11. All those current proposal come in to Neil and Colin. All those in favour of accepting these minutes? Thank you. So we move on to accounts for the month of June, which are being circulated in your papers. Do you have any questions? Can I take a vote on those?
Those been up,
Do I have a seconder?
Yeah.
All those in favour? Thank you.
Sorry, that was your
Abstaining, because I haven't had a chance to read them because I lost the papers.
Okay. Right, so that's a 10 and 1 abstention. Right, so agenda item 56, which are the planning applications. So starting with S210917FL, which is proposed two-storey and single-storey rear extension of 13 Martindale Way. Do I have any comments, please?
Yeah, we'll come back to that in a moment.
Yeah, my comment was going to be that this is a semi-detached house.
Yes, it is, yes.
And
Martindale. Oh, there we go.
the extension is quite a big one at the back of the house. Single-storey one covers practically the whole back of the house, and then the bedroom bit, which is new, is smaller, but is still quite high, if you can see from there, with the gable on it. And I also wasn't sure when I looked at the ground floor plan, the current one. The new one shows utility room and WC in it, but the old one doesn't seem to show anything
I
in
think
there.
they're adding it where the kitchen was before, so they're adding that stuff at the front and then extending out at the back. So it's actually shading stuff around a bit.
Sort of reconfiguring your existing space.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I think perhaps the one thing I felt was relevant here was the neighbours' comments. They weren't objecting to the adjacent house, has had conversations with his neighbour over this, but is asking if they can put some sort of restrictive covenant on the proposal. But I don't know whether that's possible to do.
I don't think that's possible.
I didn't.
Any proposal to extend the second storey aspect towards the will be subject to the same application as we consider in his own right. So
that's what I thought. But they seem to be in correspondence with each other and generally in agreement.
I mean, there will be a degree of shadowing because the north is where the direction of the extension's facing in, so there'll be a loss of sort of west light. Taking on some readings to some extent, but they are long gardens, so whether you consider or not that's significant or not is up to you.
Well, I guess quite a lot of it is two-storey, isn't it? So there's an extra bedroom in the middle bit. I don't know if people think it's overdeveloped or not, really.
As the neighbour seems to be objecting, I suggested, I propose that we support.
Do I have a second on that proposal? Okay. So it's proposed a second and we have no objection. All those in favour of that proposal? 1 abstention, 2 no votes. S209170LB, which is and that's for proposed summer house in the rear garden of the orchards to Mayville Lane. There is a slight non-material correction of fact in the application. The status being our site conservation area. Conservation area was extended, it is actually I mean, I don't consider that's a material issue, but I'll just mention it for the sake of completeness and accuracy.
I did wonder why it required planning permission. Is it because
Listed
of the...
buildings, Curtis, your listed building.
It's because of the listed building, yeah.
I mean, that's why it's an LB application.
I wondered, yeah. Okay, thank you for explaining that. It seems to be below the fence line, is that right?
I think it says it'll be invisible from the road, so it's just it's in the
It won't be visible from the road, and it's relatively low, single story. It's only just holding its head with the neighbour's fence, which is, you can see the bungalow next to it.
I mean, were it not for the fact it's an encouraging listed building, I'm almost certain this would be limited to
Okay. Do you want me to propose no objection?
well, it's up to you if you wish to propose an objection.
Well, I haven't got any other comments.
No, okay. Do I have a second there? Okay, second by Neil. Propose a second with no objection. All those in favour of that, those repeated again. 3.
4, 6.
Those against? Those abstaining? 2 abstentions and 2 no votes. Orchard extension at 14 Common Lane.
I think the only reason this is here is it's an extension of an existing extension.
Yes, well, also...
So it really is just that point.
2003 was the front extension, I think, and they're now wanting to go even further out. So, but there's really going to be very little impact on the local scene.
So, do I have a proposal?
Proposed no objection.
Do I have a second? Seconded by Brian. All those in favour of no objection?
Sorry, I'm not looking.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In favour. 1 abstention, 2 no votes. I propose a laundry, which I think is posh for a conservatory.
Yeah.
Is that 1918?
The other way as well,
If
isn't it?
it's in English, not French, it's in the laundry.
It's an extension.
Which it should be large enough to grow oranges in, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
With the windows in blue, I thought there was some sort of fitting down.
No, just, yeah.
There must be an orangey in here somewhere. Come on.
It looks like a normal conservatory, doesn't it? Let's see anything to
Oh, sorry, everybody. Slows it down.
Do I have a proposal?
Anyone?
Proposal?
No
No
objection.
objection.
Yeah.
Do I have a second? Second.
Oh, there it was.
All those in favour of no objection? 1, 2, 3,
1, 2, 3.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In favour. 1 abstention and 2 no votes.
I really feel that drawing should have had orange windows there.
Right, shall we move on? Right, so the erection of the football ground for Cambridge City Football Club. This was initially discussed at last week's fortnight ago planning committee, and the committee raised several questions for the developer, which are now being answered, and you've seen a list of those. I'm also quite pleased to go before council. It's a big application, and I think it's good to have it discussed while the recording's on and we're being seen to discuss it in public. So, would anyone like to make a comment?
Yeah, a couple of comments. Bullet point 1, 2. 4, car boot. You're saying the car boot sales will not start before 10 o'clock. I thought we put a condition, we had a condition on to say that they couldn't actually access the site before 9 o'clock as well.
Yes, because we think it's not the time they start, it's the time
They
people
set up.
drive their cars and they start
That's
setting
right.
up, which actually is really
Which they haven't put in here.
Cannot access like before 9 a.m.
And the next point, the licence bar will be finished at 11:45. I thought we said it was going to be agreed to 11:30 last order, so they'll be definitely out and finished off as well.
And I think we did, yes.
Well, I'm
yes.
taking this information from the letter that we sent from the previous meetings.
Yeah, so they're the 2 points I thought we had agreed on before.
Well, this is what we wrote to them before.
I mean,
years ago.
Sorry,
First came out.
basically they've taken what we've written and responded
I had to write to them with this.
with this information, and they've responded as copying what you've written.
Well, yeah.
And said yes.
Well, yes, so that's basically what we wrote to them asking,
Yes.
and he's just confirming that, yes, all that will be done, but if you...
So, I mean, if he's
Well, then
if he's
Well, we can change it, so cannot access site before 9, licence by when it's bar closed.
Well, we must have said, closes at 11:45 so everybody's out.
Well, yeah, by midnight.
I mean,
because we're
licence bar will finish, and that's outside closed and shuts at last orders, wasn't it? I mean, we must have been thinking we just want everybody out of it.
Well, it was, yes,
Yeah.
because I mean, as far as neighbourhood amenities concerned, the last order was really relevant. It's when people leave the site, isn't it?
Yeah,
What do you
the
want
thing
to
is
do?
that last bar finishes at 11:45. You can still order
to get everyone...
a load of drinks in. You could be there till 1 o'clock in the morning. The issue that we was making was they were out by 12. That was the thing.
Yes, because the licence time is really a separate issue because that falls under licensing legislation, not under planning legislation.
So what do you
So
want
it's
to
really-
No, sorry, if what our clerk has
This is
done
what we've-
is repeated what we've originally
Yes.
asked
Yes.
for, and they've responded positively to everything that we asked them,
Yeah.
then surely that's what we on the planning committee
Well,
asked to do.
Yeah.
Yes, no, because I mean, if it would be open to us, it would be open to us to comment on the conditions if members felt that was appropriate.
Well, no, all we were worried about in the planning committee
Yes.
was that they didn't renege
Yes.
on the original agreement, which was an extension of the original conditions.
But if we felt that these conditions weren't stringent enough, it would certainly be possible to comment on them as far as the planning application is concerned.
I think we could, when we give our feedback, we could simply clarify that what we're trying to do is make sure that residents are not disturbed by people entering or leaving the site. And so we want to clarify that there will not be access to car boot sales before 9 a.m. and that everybody will be off the site and away from bars by midnight.
Yes.
And that would be enough to cover it. And that would also usefully clarify to the district what the point of these rules was in the first place, that what we're concerned about is residents being disturbed on the social areas.
Well, both the present and future residents is really important because that, in the fullness of time, that could be access to them through the stage.
I was going to say, I think it is important that we do consider those points, simply because there were quite a number of letters that were sent in consultation period. I had a look at the community impact statement that's just been published as part of the papers, May 2017, and originally there were quite a lot of issues that the parish council raised in 2013.
Yes,
There were a lot of issues, most of which there's been no movement on. For example, one being the entrance point on Davenham Road. There was quite a lot of concern about traffic in and out of that point, and parking on the side roads. There was a request for a shuttle bus, I think, was there, which
Being responsive.
Well, he said
Yes,
that
that's
they
right.
so it's not actually going to be, something they're going to run regularly. And we all know that until those things are in place, they're not going to be used. So, it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. And particularly because there were issues of noise and concerns about traffic, then I think these 2 points about the timings are quite important. I thought on the question of the car boot side, there was something about consultation with the parish council about the numbers of car boot sales. I thought originally that was part
Well, I thought what we were just saying was that Joe had reiterated to them all the things that we previously asked him to agree to. So presumably this is a comprehensive list.
Yeah.
have a feeling in the back of my mind, which I can check, is that there is a standard restriction on car boot sales to 6 a year unless you apply for a further permission. I don't take that as gospel, so I would need to check that.
Yeah, I mean, what originally was one of the points on consultation committee in 2013 was the point that it says here, and this is page 12 of the new document, no car boot sales as residents nearby would not want extra traffic noise on a Sunday. And the response was, as car boot sales see a significant more match day revenue earner for the club, they would not want to agree to this restriction. They would be happy to agree to a restriction on timings and to a maximum number to be held each year. CCFC will continue to work with Sawston Parish Council on this matter. It says here. So I think it's probably a case of contacting them when they start doing the car boot sales.
Yes, I mean, if you want a planning condition in there, now's the time to ask for it.
Well, that is what they've said they will do there about car boot sales. It says they're
in conversation with the parish council,
I mean, there are two ways in which a condition can act, as I say, on timing of access to the site, which has already been mentioned, and also the number per year. So if members feel that they want to make that point, and they want that put in as a planning condition.
Well, all I'm saying is that originally it was something that concerned residents, nearby residents, and should we do a bit more to make sure that that is kept to in some way?
So we have to have a positive recommendation, because that's what we're going to say, to, for example, restrict it to 6 a year, or 9 a year, or 4 a year, if that's what we want to do. I'm not sure that we have.
Well,
I've had that discussion.
I'll propose 6. Okay. Yeah. Do I have a second of a 6?
Well, hold on a second.
Sorry.
What?
So this is.
But we agree. Do we not? Surely we need to vote on the application and then add that as a condition, don't we?
Well, yeah. Well, yes, we can talk about conditions and then take a vote on the whole lot. I'll take it the other way around, actually. I mean, well...
But if we're not for it, then we don't need to worry about it. Well, I suppose...
Well, so members of the
what do you want to do
subject to those conditions.
I'm just trying to find out about licensing, but it varies from council to council.
Yes,
would it be district council?
We South Council, yes.
Are they .org.uk?
.gov.uk.
Because if there's a maximum anyway, then we're not going to worry about it.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to move this on. So I've had a proposal from you that we ask for a planning condition limiting to 6 cars.
And do you want to say cars can access site before 9?
Yes. Okay. So first of all, all those in favour of that, of this. Now, are there any other conditions you want to?
What about this licence bar? So just to make sure that everybody's off site by midnight.
Yes.
So all of these together.
So do you want me to formulate what I suggested before as a formal proposal? I suggested that we add to the document that our concern is that residents shouldn't be disturbed at antisocial hours, so we want to make sure that there's no access to the site before 9 a.m. or after midnight. Any day of the week? Is that right?
Well, yeah, so that's, sorry, if you could try and put that as a condition, you're saying that nobody can access the site before 9 o'clock?
We specify Sunday mornings. The idea was Sunday morning.
Yes, it was, yes.
So there's some, and we're talking about people coming to the car boot sale.
They're specifically car boot sales.
Not employees of the club, for example.
Okay, so actually what you want to say is that anybody using the Saturday night bar has left the site by midnight, and that anybody coming to car boot sale doesn't have access to the site before 9 a.m.
Yes.
No access to site for car boots before 9 a.m.
Well, I would have thought you might want to consider a general limit rather than just limiting it to Saturdays.
They'll have stuff going on in the week, actually.
Yes,
They're going to hold it for weddings and stuff as well. So they'll have weddings on Fridays.
Yes, the licensing laws don't determine when the bars are closed. But they determine the bars are closed, but not when the buildings will finally completed, do they? I mean, that's a planning condition.
So, would we like the bar restriction apply to all days of the week? And what about early access? Do we think that should apply to all days of the week? Should we?
Well, it only applies to, it only applies to our stores.
Because of the potential volume of traffic.
Yeah.
Okay, well, do you want to say Saturdays and Sundays? Because they could equally do car boots on Saturday, couldn't they?
It's still restricted to 6. I don't think so. There's going to be
Can we just limit it to car boot sales? Do we need to say a day of the week? If we just say full car boot sales?
Well, I think
They don't have just football on a Saturday. No, it's alternate weeks over the way.
I think the issue is particularly significant on a Sunday morning, because Sunday mornings tend to be when people so, you know, on weekdays most people are up and around by 9 o'clock, aren't they? So it's much less of an irritation. Yeah. So I have a proposal relating to the car boot sales that there should be a maximum of 6 a year, and that there should be no access to the site before 9 o'clock on Sundays. Right?
For
car boot sales.
for car boot.
So are you combining what I just suggested with a limit on car boot sales? Because I don't want to vote for that. I think 6 is too few to limit them to.
Okay. Well, do you want to vote on that separately then? Okay.
Right, hold on. So we're doing Neil no more than 6 car boot sales a year.
Right, well, I should take a vote on that.
Because if we're voting for no access before 9 a.m, do we actually need to restrict numbers? Because it might be a nice enough money owner for them, and there may well be plenty of Sawston residents who'd be really keen. You know, we get inquiries on Facebook about whether there are any car boot sales in the vicinity.
I had proposals so people would vote as they
I know, I'm just suggesting an alternative case before we vote on it.
Do I have a second of Neil's?
I've got Jane's.
Right, okay. So now voting purely on Neil's proposal, which is to limit, which is to ask for condition limiting the number of car boot sales to 6 a year. All those in favour of that proposal? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4. And yes, and I have a difficulty because
Right, abstention, so I get everyone's voting. You do no vote, abstention. Anybody who else didn't vote?
The none of you who voted in favour think that actually if we're restricting the time, that's enough, that it doesn't start before 9 a.m, that's fine. It's not, you know, there are plenty of residents who love the car boots there, it'll bring some traffic into the village. People may well go to local pubs to have lunch afterwards.
Well, as I say, I was just reading today some of the comments that came from residents, and you know, particularly in that area, there were concerns about traffic and there were concerns about noise. So, considering that the parish council had discussed this issue before and asked for, you know, restrictions on it, then do we not want to just make sure that is complied with?
I think in view of the fact I'm constrained and I can't do a casting vote on that, because we don't have a majority of that proposal, okay. So we'll now move on to Beck's proposal, which was to limit the time to 9 a.m. access to the site on Sundays.
Yes,
Do I have a
just
second?
clarifying the
Do I have a second
Car
for that?
boot users.
The car boot users, car boot sale users. Yes. So
we're not doing any limitations of number?
no.
So no access to the site on Sundays for car boot users before 9 a.m.
Right, so those...
Thank you.
Yes. So all those in favour of that proposal?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, yeah.
Okay, and 2 no votes. So moving on. So with those. Oh yes. So I've had a proposal that there's a condition be added that the licence bar should be closed and users should leave the premises by midnight.
Users of the premises.
So do I? Yes.
I thought that was
You did, yeah.
Yes. So do I have a second then? Okay. And are you happy for the restriction on Saturdays to be removed? Because presumably that can happen.
So users of off premises by midnight every night.
Yeah, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So all those in favour of that proposal? Right.
Yeah.
That's 2 votes. So with those provisos, those recommended conditions, all those in favour. Yes.
Briefly, can we append this correspondence to the sort of communication we have with District Council?
With the amendment, yes, of course it can.
Just so that becomes part of the application.
So with that, so with those suggested conditions, all those who wish to support this application,
Well,
please.
proposal and second.
So go propose.
Has anything material changed since last time we approved it?
Not really, no.
Nothing of substance.
No.
So do I have a proposal?
To support, yeah.
So all those in favour, please indicate. Okay. So that's
You know, like,
2 no votes.
yes,
Okay, one abstention, 2 no votes. Okay. So the next item is the proposals on Sawston Trade Park. You had a presentation on. Yes.
Why are we considering it? It's in Pakistan.
Well, it is usual for neighbouring parishes to be consulted.
Yes.
If an application is likely to impinge significantly on it. So it's a large one close to the borders. So that's the reason we're being consulted on this.
And will what we say be taken into account by the planning committee or even though we're only objecting?
Yes. Okay. So, do I have any discussion on this?
Sorry. I had a look because I was interested in the feedback. Because quite a number of villagers went to the meeting that Iconics Park developers had on the 20th of April. I went certainly, and I think a couple of other members of the public did, because to be fair to the developers, they did write to every single household in Sawston and Humbersford and invited them to this meeting, because they obviously do want to engage with the public in Sawston, and in fact their statement of community involvement, which I had a look at, does describe all this, and it does have a section about the response to issues raised during the public consultation. But what's quite interesting is they pick out what they call the key issues identified and whether appropriate action has been taken to address them. I mean, one issue was the name of the development being Sawston campus. Several people from Humbersford said, it should be Humbersford, because that's actually where it is. But the argument the developers have put forward is that actually it's known as Sawston Trade Park at the moment, and it is also associated with Sawston for that reason, geographically. But anyway, just skipping through what they have addressed, there are a couple of things that other concerns that people raise that they haven't addressed that I don't know whether we want to put back in our comment. One was about the lighting in the car park. Someone raised an issue because the car park is going to be quite big on Iconics Park, about how obtrusive the lighting would be. They don't seem to have address that. There was also an issue about traffic management in general, having traffic lights or some other way of controlling traffic, and in fact it was a recommendation from highways that traffic flow on the roundabout would be adequate to cope with that. We might have a comment on that in view of other developments that are going on. Shuttle bus station, it was suggested that there could be a shuttle bus run for employees of various businesses that are going to be on Iconics Park to Wimbleston Station. What they've said about that actually is that the site is situated opposite a bus stop and within walking distance of the train station. So presumably they expect everyone to either walk or catch the bus.
Yeah, they haven't noticed that the bus doesn't actually go to the railway station.
But sometimes...
Don't stop nowhere near the railway station.
Yeah. But something I was thinking about in connection with that was, if the parish council could in some way lobby for a shuttle bus, then that, which could be used by residents of Sawston as well, that would be quite useful.
Well, would we be better off, well, I don't know, is it pointless lobbying Stagecoach to actually have a bus that goes to the rail station?
Pretty much.
Because it seems absolutely
I don't know, that's
ridiculous.
Well, there is a 7A which admittedly doesn't run at rush hours, but it does go to Whittlesford Station from time to time.
I'm a regular user of Whittlesford Station and I have never seen a bus there.
Well, it's
ever.
I've seen it
14 years.
But when there's no passengers to pick up.
Well, it's
that'll be the reason then.
That's why I don't know.
See, you work there then.
I don't know what its timings are, but it's very useful, obviously.
Well, the County Council is currently reviewing its bus subsidies. That particular service costs around about £76,000 a year to subsidise, and the average rate of subsidy per passenger is £14.92 per passenger.
Per year?
And
per journey?
Per journey, yes. And if you actually work...
It's very typically empty.
Yes, I mean,
It's very sad to say.
If you work out the number of registered trips on it and the number of times the bus runs, according to my calculations, are about 2.25 passengers per trip, which fits quite well with observed. So I don't want to preempt anything the County Council might do, and I certainly don't want to lose the service, but I think it's going to be one of the more difficult ones to pay.
As part of the about years ago, we saw a circular this week saying that we didn't want to withdraw from that service.
Yes. I mean,
which wouldn't be surprising.
No, it wouldn't be surprising. I mean, I haven't heard any, I haven't got any independent confirmation of that, but that's all I can say. All I know is the County Council's currently carrying out this review, and their decisions to be made yet.
So I want to support Janet's suggestion that we ask them about lighting, because it was bothered me that Sawston medical practice is lit up like a Christmas tree however late at night you go past it. I mean, I've got a late train home. It's just, I'm amazed that residents don't complain about it, but the amount of electricity it must be using seems ridiculous.
Well, we did talk to them about it, and not long after the practice opened, and we were told it was necessary for security. It was apparently medical practices are a risk because they store drugs on site.
Yeah, I thought the evidence, certainly the evidence given to domestic households, would be much better to have an activator light that comes on when there's a miscreant walking into view, because it alarms them.
And light pollution is generally an issue.
And if it's all lit up, it's much easier to find your way into.
I mean, certainly it's possible to condition the type of lighting and also the time that it's on. So, I mean, as you say, modern lighting can be designed much more satisfactorily than lighting just spews up everywhere. You can have directed lighting, and that would normally be conditioned on anyway. I mean, we'd make a comment on it.
Well, it doesn't seem to have been with other people, so can I propose that we make it a condition that?
Do I have a second for that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. The other thing that's raised, I really got a clear answer on that, was the condition of the cycleway. They seem quite keen to promote cycling to Whittlesford Station, and I think we commented. I certainly commented at the time. I think others did. There would be an opportunity to reconfigure the cycle crossing, so that instead of going left and then right, so that you cross that busy road twice, you could have a single route which had a crossing further away from the roundabout, which to my mind would be quite a bit safer, and also have the section cycleway across that triangle of land at the bottom end of the bypass, made up to a proper standard, because at the moment it's just a narrow footpath.
Grass at the moment.
Well, it is, so it's overgrown for most of the year.
There's a further issue around the current configuration, isn't there?
There is, yes.
So, for example, we know that there's a muddy patch by the filter in the middle to come down towards Sawston High Street because people want to pass on the inside.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of verge for that.
Yes.
So we could ask, couldn't we, that actually, as part of that development, we spend some money on some reconfiguration, including a cycleway and a reconfiguration of that junction.
Yes.
That would be good.
It would, yes.
It would be a simple way of improving traffic flow there.
Well, yes. I mean, bearing in mind the size of the development, I mean, that's going to be small.
Was that formal proposal then, that they enhance cycle access to the site, looking at improving existing cycleways?
Yes.
I thought you mentioned that. I thought we mentioned that. One of the earlier presentations.
Yeah, I'm sure we said it to them, but I think we're now talking about things that we want to...
Could we just clarify the lighting condition?
Yeah, what is the proposed? We make this a condition that lighting
The proposal was that it should be kept as low as possible, and also that the lighting unit should be designed so as not to minimise light spread and light pollution.
You can get car parks now. I think the Ashbrook's one operates like that over a certain time, where actually there's no lighting there. It's triggered by a car movement or a person movement actually in the car park. So something like that would be quite good. And the lighting would be...
So
make it so is the proposal Beck and Janet for the lighting and also this cycleway.
Yes. You have to add that to it.
Okay.
Just so we have one vote.
Those are mine.
So all those in favour of those proposals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll do their votes. So with those recommendations, do I have a proposal for the? Do I have a seconded by Neil? So all those supporting the application. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 2 no votes. And we have an information only on the other side of the page for the internal refurbishment and the external paving of the Greyhound.
Wasn't it going on in this building?
Yes.
Is this just, I could only see that it was related to a picket fence?
It's a discharge of condition notice, that's one. DC is discharge of condition. Okay.
I won't ask what that means because I don't think we've got time to go.
Well, it's when they fulfil when they demonstrate they fulfil the conditions of planning application. Right, zebra crossing opposite London Road, opposite the medical centre, issue raised by residents. I think you raised this bit.
Yes, I think there was a lot of discussion on Facebook about how dangerously people drive over that crossing, and the fact that people are speeding to get over the speed bumps, and several residents report having really quite alarming near misses on that crossing. And so there have been several requests about whether we can turn it into a Pelican crossing. I mean, we have been responding, those of us who are on Facebook, that Parish Council did fight for that originally.
Yes,
stiffed by the developers. Which is a technical term.
But certainly we can revisit it. I mean, this was what.
Well, I think we wondered whether there are pots of county council money that we might apply for.
Well, yes. I mean, I think there's the minor road improvement, there's the minor highways application, but I think I suspect that this is not going to be cheap, because the figure which is on the minor highways improvement site gives a figure of something between 60 and 90,000 for a particular pelican crossing. I mean, I accept that some of the work's done already, so it might not come to as much as that. But I think that if we were going to do this, the parish council, I think, would probably have to think about funding a substantial part of it, and I think before we move down this road, it would be quite useful to find out exactly how much that would cost. So we can certainly ask it may be worthwhile asking the county for an estimate. But stick to it. That was exactly what happened last time, because we were told it was going to cost 45,000 is what we put in for. And then all of a sudden it was 85. Yes.
But should I try and get them to spend them on put it on the next planning agenda?
Yes, yeah.
Or not next planning agenda, it'll have to be September.
I think it would, yes. Yeah.
Or when I've got.
Okay. Do you
I think
sorry, Brian, sorry.
In the same way that we asked Colin if he could collect some evidence for the speed watch, I'm just slightly concerned that we've got anecdotal evidence of this misuse. And do we actually know how often this is taking place? Is it well, do we have evidence of that? So if we need to justify a significant expenditure of, let's say, 20 or 30,000 as a contribution, which it might, then we really ought to have some evidence that there is misuse. And I'm not denying that. I'm just saying
even
we
if
don't
it's just asking people to log incidents, somebody drove very fast over it, didn't stop for us, and you just look all the time that happens.
We could ask the police to do a speed trap down there.
Well, I was going to say, is it worth mentioning this to the police as well?
That's a negative impact.
But it is, I mean, if it's a danger to the public, we ought to be anyway notifying the police.
We can ask the medical centre to keep a logbook as well, couldn't we?
I think there's a related but separate issue, and that is that the crossing itself is in urgent need of renewal, because it will become almost invisible on the road surface.
So just from a technology point of view, it wouldn't be too difficult to actually set up a camera to actually record.
That's so good.
It really, compared to an expenditure of 20 to 30,000.
Exactly, I know Colin's done a lot of work on this, and I think the proposal was going to come to probably to a future planning committee.
If you set up a camera, somebody's got to watch all the footage and log things.
Well, not the type of system that Colin was talking about, which registers, it flashes up the speed, and also there's a version.
It also records the number of people that go above.
That's not going to say if anyone's on the crossing, though, is it?
No, exactly.
It's not going to, it's just people speeding across the whatever, it's not going to...
Well, it depends.
It's not going to show that someone's standing at the crossing and no one stops.
There are software systems associated with the cameras that will show people movement, for example. I'm just suggesting, in terms of relative expenditure, if the proposal came before the parish to spend 20 or 30,000 of its budget on turning it into a pelican crossing, then we ought to have some evidence that was worth spending. And if we were to spend £2,000 or £3,000 on a camera and evidence that it was there, then that might be money worth spending, particularly if it showed it one way or another, because you could either justify it or reasonably deny it.
I think before taking this conversation further, it would be quite helpful to have some indication of the technologies that you're using.
The ones that you're talking about that record, they flash up, they record the vehicle movement, they're more like 5,000.
Right.
And they'll be solar powered, and that'll be movable. So you haven't got as long as it's got a lamppost or something that's over 2.1 metres tall, go wherever.
I think actually they're electing.
I've been post on post on Facebook, stick up a poster in the medical centre, leave an 8-ball notebook for people to log dangerous driving.
So is that a proposal? So,
yes.
Janet.
I was just going to say the law, because I had a look at this in the highway code, it's quite tricky on zebra crossings because actually cars have to give way to pedestrians if they are on the crossing.
Yes,
so they're actually yeah, exactly. And you know, who wants to throw themselves onto the crossing just in case someone will stop? So the law is a bit tricky in terms of interpreting. You know what? I agree. I think it'd be a good idea to log it, but it might be an issue about. I mean, it might be even more helpful to ask the police if they could just have someone stationed there for a couple of hours. Just like but it is an issue about educating the public, isn't it, as well?
Everyone's a model driver when the police are there, aren't they?
Yeah, but it's an issue about educating the public as well.
Yes.
You know, so because I've stood on zebra crossings where sometimes people don't stop at all for you, and others will stop. But you know, lots of people will stop. So
you're supposed to stop if there's somebody standing at a zebra crossing. You're supposed to stop and let them go across.
Yeah,
that's my test.
Not until you put your foot on the side of the
What are you saying? You've got to put your foot.
So I'm proposing that I take some informal action initially to get feedback from residents, so that we can get a vague idea of how we can problem.
So do I have a second of that proposal? Right. So all those in favour of that proposal, please indicate now. Thank you. And can I add to that a proposal from the chair? We also write to the county council asking that the crossing is reformed.
Oh yeah,
So it is.
Okay,
that's fine.
Perhaps Colin and I could informally look at the technology as well.
yeah, that'd be good.
Yes.
Just as a sort of addendum to that, there's a zebra crossing in Great Shelford, which is practically invisible. I mean, you can't see the lines on the road at all.
Well, the one up with Hill
The one at the bottom of the high street there.
But I'm conscious of the time actually. So agenda item 58 I'm moving through, so we already discussed that. Consideration of wording for standing orders relating to the election of chairman and vice chairman. I think this was whether we had a secret ballot for the election of chairman and vice chairman.
No, we haven't for other committees. We have for the chair and whether you have a secret ballot, isn't it? Because
I think the confusion was, did we have it on just the full council or on all committees?
What percentage should be?
I think we were wondering because if we're trying to spare people's feelings, do the options whether we should spare feelings.
But also we talked about the possibility, I think Tony, you said that you quite allowed to have your vote recorded if you if you wanted.
Yeah. So, do I have a proposal for this?
I propose that we have secret ballots for all elections for chairs and vice chairmen
of all committees to make
Yeah, I think I disagree, because I just think it's useful to be open. I think it's useful to see who's voting for everybody to see who's voting. I think we should be able to cope with, not being voted onto things.
So vote for is if you're for having secret.
So those in favour of being in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
7.
Okay. And those against?
3.
1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's the carried.
Who didn't vote?
I didn't vote. I'm mistaken.
Tom's saying there is no issues either way.
No, I don't know. Right, so can we move on to the question of Bayview Parish Council, the extension of 30-mile limit in accordance with the email which they suggest, which is included in the minutes. And what they're proposing is that the speed limit from 30 miles an hour through Bayview High Street be extended to the junction of the Flaming Wall.
It's all the way to Sawston.
Yes, it is, yes, yeah.
What it is to do with is, I think you find, is the fact that the county have made the county are doing the extension
yes.
anyway. They were wanting an extension on their high street, and they're asking, because it comes under pavement, that it may go about 39 minutes right the way through. So they're asking for us to call. Simple.
Yes. I mean, there's certainly an issue at that T-junction because it is not uncommon to see holes in the hedge when people...
Yes.
One car went through the gates.
Yes.
And on the other side.
So,
Beck, you're proposing
You're proposing
you know, just as a general rule, it's both costly and confusing for drivers to have constantly changing speed limits. It's much simpler, you know, for them to see it's 30 miles an hour all around that area.
They might take notice, but that's there.
seconder?
Yeah.
so all those in favour? Those against? And those abstaining? Abstention. So 2 abstentions. Did you abstain?
No, 1 abstention.
Right, so Roster play equipment inspection, which we had in the year.
Yeah, this is during August. Unfortunately, I got one quote for 2 responded, but the quote for doing all 4 areas is £260 plus VAT. And the quote that I've got is actually the same people that we did last year with the cheapest, and it's who's recommended by our insurance company. So whether you want to go,
Is it very different from last year, do you know?
No,
I mean, it's work that we have to have done.
so Roger.
So have a proposal for approval. I don't have a second that.
Yeah, I've got that.
So all those in favour of accepting that? Okay. And the air conditioning contract.
Oh, yeah. So the air conditioning units in the office have to be done every year.
You have to fill up in the coolant and well, if the council agreed to install them about 3 or 4 years ago.
Do you need it in this
We have them. That decision's been made, and we have them, and they need to be maintained. Okay.
Right, so we've got 3 quotes, £156 plus VAT, £145 plus VAT, or £300 plus VAT, and then all sticks with prices for 3 years because we agreed.
Is that for 1 or 2 visits?
It's just
Annual.
the annual
Yeah, so
inspection thing.
Are they all the same spec on the instructions?
Yes.
Is it an inspection or do they actually fix them?
It's to fix, they have to be,
Okay.
well, that's
every year,
Yes.
Maintenance, I can't remember what it's called. MOT.
Do I have a proposal?
Do you want to go for the cheapest one? Yeah,
Yes,
3
and Neil
years.
seconded.
So hold on. 3 years. Sorry, who proposed it?
Beck and then Neil. Okay. So all those in favour of that proposal?
Yeah, thank you.
So the clerk to attend the SLCC regional seminar in September.
Just asking because it is a cost of £69 plus VAT, but this one they're covering best practice for use of social media, which I thought might be quite useful.
Yes.
And the updates.
So I have a proposal from Roger, I have a seconded from Colin. All those in favour?
Who was the first one? Sorry, I know we all hurry up, but crikey. Roger. Thank
Colin
you.
seconded.
Yeah.
So all those in favour, please. Okay, Roger. Okay, that's unanimous.
Yeah.
So we have 4 S137 applications, and the first one is the Sawston Community First Responders.
Since we've got 4 applications, can you jog our memory about how much we've got in the kitty?
£3,888.
3,000?
£3,088.
£388. 95 pence.
Yes. So the first responder group is requesting 1,197.
I've got a question about this application. is that it's to cover a life pack defibrillator.
We've got defibrillators coming out of our ears.
My understanding was that if a 999 call is made, then the ambulance service directs.
If when they call them, they'll ask where they are. If they're near a defib within a certain distance, they'll tell them where it is and give them the code to get the defib.
Yeah. So and Joe spends quite a lot of time in maintaining the system. Every week you have to audit it, make sure it's working, etc. So I'm just wondering. I mean, I can see that it is an advantage for first responders to have a defibrillator on. With them, rather than having to get a member of the public to go and get it. But it was my question about is it actually needed? Yeah. And I did also wonder, my understanding of the way first responders work is that you have a rota, so this defibrillator presumably will have to be passed around.
Well, yes, I've seen
first responders.
The bag, when you're on call,
yeah, so I'm just wondering how it's going to work and whether, I don't know, you've obviously got a query about it as well, and it's £1,000.
Yes, and I'd really like to see somewhere, sometimes, some statistics of how often these things actually get used and how often they are successful. Because I think we're just sort of, we've watched an awful lot of them already.
That one's been activated for a time, for a year and a half. And the one at Mill Lane was activated the other week.
Probably the most effective ones are ones on sports fields where you have somebody relatively young to get the young things.
I mean, I'd be happy to kind of support the first responders in some other way, because I think it is a good, I think it's a good local initiative to support emergency care.
Could we offer them £300 to cover the cost of other things and give them a list of the location of all the defib units in Sawston?
Or even £300 towards it they get. I'm sure we're not the only people who've asked, I would imagine.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the responder bag and the oxygen bag together are about 200. So if you gave them 300, you would effectively give them £100 towards the defibrillator.
And their responder bag,
So that's my proposal anyway, is offer £300 and just point out to them in case they are actually unaware of it.
I mean, the whole request is a third of our remaining budget.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Second that. Okay. So I have a proposal of second. I have a proposal of second of 300. Beck proposed, Jane seconded. All those in favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Tony? You abstaining?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Right, so next one is the one declared from the last meeting, application of bed pass.
So have we already given money to the other guys who do exactly the same as malcontents?
Yeah.
They're asking for 399. I think what they're saying in their email is that they're not exactly the same because they offer a 24/7 service.
But they're nearly the same, and they basically said everybody else only has one or the other, and aren't we lucky in Cambridgeshire to have both? Which malcontents seems kind of well, no, not really, because it doesn't sound very efficient. Given how expensive helicopters are.
Well, yes, I know there is.
A GP-run service. Are they?
They are, yes.
Yeah, so they are different. They are different in the way they respond. They offer a GP.
Helicopter in the air going through an accident or an incident.
Well, the helicopters are only used really for off-road or difficult to access ones. I mean, most of their response, even the East Anglia Air Ambulance, most of their responses are surface ones.
Yes, but you had one landed in the Mill Lane navigation.
Yes, yeah.
They also say somewhere about there have been times when they work together with East Anglian Air Ambulance and where in fact 2 helicopters have been required.
Yes,
So, I mean, I think I'd quite like to support them in some way. So that would be my suggestion.
What is
Well,
now?
How much should we give to the other ones, Joe? Because
It's only 3 hours and 440, but that was they had that for doing first aid training at
Oh,
the
yes,
primary
yes,
schools,
that's right,
which
yes.
they
Right.
checked with the school and they did it at
Yes, that was, yes, that was a one-off, wasn't it, really? Yeah.
They're saying that each time they're called out to provide emergency medical support in our postcode, they incur costs of approximately £600.
Unless it's that little, I thought helicopters were really expensive to run.
Well, they're actually cheaper than, because I remember asking the ambulance that come out from Addenbrooks to the care home where my parents are in Royston. It costs £800 a total ambulance.
Yeah.
So it's actually cheaper for a helicopter, strange enough.
Do we want to give them the £400 they've asked for?
I'm quite happy to propose that.
So yeah, so support for the 300. Seconder.
I'll second that.
And all those in favour of that proposal?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
One abstention. Right, so the next one is CAMSAR.
We donated to them last year, didn't we?
We did, yes. We gave them 300 mentions out on that.
June 2016.
If we look carefully, it become an annual event.
Yeah, I get them every year, aren't they?
Yeah, we will do, yes, yes.
I mean, at least the other one was 2 years prior.
I asked about where they've helped within Sawston. Within the last year, they had 2 searches near Sawston, God's and Limekew Road, and one in Sawston itself, which we assisted in for 3 days with a successful outcome.
Right, so do you have a proposal, please?
I'm going to propose bigger than £300 because it sounded quite worthwhile work and not necessarily something that anybody else is doing.
Do I have a second? Right, so all those in favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11,
So 2 abstentions.
yeah.
There was a scheme, wasn't there? I think from the Police a couple of years ago, having registered people in the community who were prepared to go around and carry out these searches basically. People who just wandered off with it, really. I mean, it's manuals of dementia.
Might be worth asking them, but
Yes.
you probably need some training to know what you do when you find
I
something.
mean, it's discussed at one of the neighbourhood panel meetings, but I never know anything more about it. Okay, so, and finally the ones in the middle.
Well, this has dropped now because they've had some other donations. So where they originally asked for £2,000, yeah, £660,
And it's
two Sawston residents, which is what they asked.
They sort of hand pick ones that they think will get most out of it, haven't they?
They've named them as well.
Okay.
So we've still got enough funding for this as well if we wanted to then.
We have if we wish to, yes.
Would you like me to propose?
It's up to you if you want to. Yeah.
Support it, yes.
The two that they've identified are.
So what's that? Needs to agree tonight.
I think we have to assume, because they're generally pretty good at knowing what they're doing, aren't they? That they're selecting their targets very carefully.
I think there's just one comment about this. I'm deeply concerned that names are mentioned on a publicly circulated document. Joe, I think it might be worthwhile having a quiet word with Ollie, because I'm deeply concerned that names are mentioned on a
Well, it wasn't publicly available because it's just to Joe. I think it's possibly a promotion for us.
It's in our correspondence pack.
We should have deleted the names before it was.
But it's got some quite personal information about it as well, which is, I don't know, it's useful for us to know. I don't know whether it's,
Yes.
I mean, if the names were deleted, it's useful to know the basis on which they've chosen them.
Yes. I mean, there's no need to hold it in camera, but there shouldn't be any identifying interest. We've dealt with traveller cases like this at South County, it's talking about family and so on and so forth.
Second for Janet's.
Okay.
Can I just, I asked Joe if we were happy with the total that we were agreeing to tonight in relation to the total left. And when, so we're roughly on about half of the 3,000.
Well, it's spent about 1,000 something, I think, to make up.
Right,
Two 300s and 400, wasn't it?
yeah, and then this 660.
Yes, I wasn't counting that in, so that would bring it up to about half.
Yes.
And when does that expire?
But we only, well, no, the 1.5 money will go into donations, which will be November.
Yes. And that's usually around about 1,000, though, and it can vary either way depending on...
And then obviously we'll budget again in
Yes.
April.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. So, on that basis, all those in
Oh, hold on,
sorry.
second on.
Sorry, we've got a second of Beck second.
Beck, thank you.
Okay. So, on that basis, all those in favour of this proposal?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think that was unanimous.
No, it's not. So you abstain.
Will you abstain?
Yeah.
Right, correspondence. None. County Council report was circulated in the papers. Are there any questions for our County Council?
I did email Roger about some highway issues in Sawston. I haven't got them.
You were talking about the Samari Joy thing.
No, I just asked him generally if there were any plans to resurface.
Oh, well, I told you, but you asked me, and then I would respond. Oh, and then you asked.
Yeah, I just said
We've
had a chat with Peter Taylor about the whole ward that we cover regarding patchwork and researching. We're going to have a chat with Evan Lockley as to how we're going to structure it. So the answer to your question is yes, we are planning to do something that we're in conversations at the moment. So there's that issue. Yeah, there are a couple of additions I'd like to add to it. One is the LLF consultation for the 18th of this month is now the fourth workshop. It's not going to go forward, it's never come forward in September, either the first or the second week, and then 2 weeks later, followed by the going to the public consultation. The officers have said they need that time to collate all the information that we've come up with and to also look at a much bigger picture as to the impact of all the stuff that mentioned. It's interesting that on the scoring system that they used, the high scoring systems are all safety issues. One of them were actually about reducing cars. It's about safety issues. They were the high scoring events, which is, as I sort of like Chairman said, is a bit of a pointless exercise because we're here to try and take cars off the road and not promote safety. But that's where we are with it. A couple of other issues is I attended the Children's Committee today, and there's a consultation going out regarding the young people's children's centres, regarding the review of them, because the county has got to find £1 million in savings, and they're reviewing the children's centres, and if you go online to the Cambridge website, the County Council website, you'll get a full report of what they're looking at.
Is that the one that includes Robinson Hill?
Yes. So there are some other implications in that, so I would recommend that you have a look at it, you decide it, and you can participate. I said about think that's really about it, to be honest. Yeah, that's it.
Right, okay. Right, I'm conscious of time, so if people could be as brief as possible, I'll go around the table and councillors' issues.
Mentioned the neighbourhood panel. It was an interesting conversation that I had with Tim Cleary, in that there's likelihood that we will get a community officer back in Ian Perry, and we'll also be getting a constable, a proper constable, and having a PCSO. So
Is that to be shared amongst 11 villages?
no,
Like it used to be?
no. Gary has been moved over to Linton, so the PCSO will be shared and the constable will be shared, but not. The PCSO will be shared within the smaller villages, and the other two will be throughout the area. So there is the bottom line of all this is after years and years of fighting and discussing this. Dave and I have been pushing this matter this parish council has been pushing this matter for years. We've managed to get back community policing. So it's a pretty positive thing, I think.
Okay. Right, Janet.
No, I haven't.
Bradley.
No.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do we stand with the play equipment, Deal Grove and Linton Way?
Oh, we're going to site visits up there this week, isn't
Yes, we're hoping the tarmac should be done by the end of the week. And we're hoping it should all be open, end of next week.
And what about Deal Grove? Where
Deal
that?
Grove's done.
It still is it now?
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do keep using it with my grandson.
Yeah. Like you see on it. But yeah, no, we just been with the weather and everything. But yeah, I'm hoping by the end of next week she'll all be tarmacked and good to go.
Yeah, one for Kevin again. They have notified and dustbin's still not brought down Common Lane Farm, so where did that dustbin?
I've been asking that. This is all very good, but I need written. It's got to be written down, and I
They keep sending them emails and that, and they go down Common Lane.
we had this.
They only go up.
We had
copy us in on them, that would be helpful.
we had a scrutiny meeting last week, and that was the main issue on the scrutiny meeting. We gave the officers and the portfolio holder a thumb. Sawston is the second worst village for refuse collection. The highest is actually Campbell. They've got a bigger problem than what we've got. They kept bashing on about having a 96, 97, 98, 99.57 collection rate, and the point that I made very strongly was I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the repeat calls of people's bins not being empty, and at that point they conceded, and that's what they asked us to look into.
I think I pointed out there's a bit like Star Wars week statistics, we've got 30% increase each year, it's still not going in the shops.
One more.
Yes.
On last night when I was on my way here, C7 bus is going to stop down at Trumpington.
Yes.
It's like you put the Scottsdales.
It's going to miss out wage charge.
Yes.
I've had people always concerned about that. We've got a lot of people in Sawston that actually use it to get to Waitrose.
We've asked for that to go as a nice one on the next planning committee, actually, which I think is
It's actually, it will go past Scottsdale because it goes to the traffic lights and then...
That's past Scottsdale's 9, that's going to turn off in Shelford.
I think it's the end of July, actually.
Yeah.
But I think there's, I think we might want to change the section of buses because we might have more news about the 7A by that stage.
That'd be useful. You see, it might be that we need a service that says alternative, so on the hour. So one does go direct to Addenbrooks and the city centre, and then another goes. I know it's a bit more complicated for everyone, but it does mean at least that some people want to use it for Scottsdale or Waitrose.
Yes.
Well, there's a lot of people who Scottsdale, so they're in and they're off out now.
Anyway, moving on.
Yes,
I presume you've had a little water down the bottom of the gym.
Well, that puddle, I just
but there's a bit more now. The white line's going up the dual.
Yeah.
And over the top of the dual, they're diminished so you can't see them.
Okay, right.
And that's an accident waiting to happen. I travel up there twice a day with a slow moving vehicle, and the risk people take is unbelievable.
Is that the right way through?
That's from the sewage works down to the walnut tree.
Okay.
There used to be a solid line one side and a hatch line the other, and they're nearly all gone.
Right.
Either that or hidden dip signs put up like they have on the new market way, just to warn people. But if they have an accident, they just can say, well, there's no markings on the road.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, I can speak to the people for that for you.
We have a place on, well, we're talking about Hookridge Hill about the fire that was on Saturday. There was smoke coming out of one of the buildings at the sewage works at Hookridge Hill.
Yeah, they're looking for used, but I don't know if they've got any.
No, it's on Saturday, okay.
So the Cambridge Waterworks, the building at the back, it's empty, and that's what I think. They're looking for used.
We've got another matter that we need to cover in camera traps. So
Yes, we have. So,
Well, there was one other thing that I wanted to mention. When we talked previously about being as representative of various things and not having a chair and deputy default option, I found something that we hadn't gone to in November 2016, which was a South Cambs District Council Cabinet and Parish Council's liaison meeting on the 30th of November.
well, I think it was announced at the meeting. I mean, obviously there's no point in keeping myself back to that because it's we're anyway.
So the reason I mention it is that all the other parishes in the area were represented and we weren't. And that seems to have been a bit of
I think we did ask for volunteers.
You always ask for volunteers.
So if I get
Also,
stuff through, I'll always send a generic one asking people to go. I don't know.
didn't ring any bells.
Give me an email so I get it.
do you need a proposal going to camera for?
Also, I need a time extension as well.
Very quickly, I don't know if people are aware, but the Cambridge United supported village has been withdrawn.
Oh yes.
Supported village of Trumpington, Cambridge United has been withdrawn.
What's the one at Trumpington?
Trumpington.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for that.
Sorry,
It was on the media. Right.
Essentially it's going into camera.
Yes. Okay. All those in favour, please. Thank you. For reasons of financial confidentiality. Right.